The ruck speed has changed. You know, the World Rugby, of which I'm part of the working committee for that, is very insistent about we want a better game. We want a better game of rugby, and to get that, we need more consistent ruck speed, and that's been happening in competitions to varying degrees. It's a lot different from one competition to the other, but we're anticipating at the World Cup in 2023, the ruck speed is going to be pretty quick, which then allows you to attack on front foot ball, which brings in more instinctive skills rather than pattern rugby. And we're seeing that come to the fore probably more in the Southern Hemisphere at this stage than the Northern Hemisphere. So we want to make sure we prepare for that. And then conversely, in defence, your defence is under more pressure because you've got less time to get set. So it's a really exciting time for rugby generally, I think. And we're lucky to be part of it and lucky to be playing in front of crowds in July at Twickenham, and we can't wait to get there. It's going to be a new squad to a large degree. So we've got a great chance to put down some foundations for the next 2 years to the World Cup in 2023. We want to be the best team in the world. So that's where we're at. That's a quick summary of what we've been doing. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, guys.
Right, thank you, Eddie. James Carroll, we'll come to you first, please.
Hi, thanks, Eddie. James from AP. I mean, you touched on it kind of briefly there before we lost you, but can you just maybe kind of talk about how useful you found that review? We've obviously seen the statements, but just kind of in your words, you know, was that helpful to sit down and have that debrief about the Six Nations campaign?
Well, in essence, James, we always do that. But because of the situation, it became more of a formal review, which is understandable and useful because you get different people involved in the review, different ideas, and that all can be very useful. So we've taken that on board, and that's part of our planning going forward.
And one thing that just struck me from that review was that the RFU and your team will be making use of external rugby experts, kind of keeping your performances constantly under review and to support you in your coaching strategy. Is that something that you're comfortable with and you've agreed to? Because that sounds like maybe your influence on the cap, maybe there may be other influences on the coaching strategy.
Well, there's only one head coach, mate.
So no, then you don't feel that's a compromise.
There's only one head coach. At the end of the day, when the team wins or loses, the responsibility is mine. I use a series of experts in and outside the game to come up with the best coaching environment, and I welcome any good advice. I welcome any wisdom that I can get, and I'm always looking for that. So that's no different than it's ever been.
Okay, and just a final one from me then. Again, you sort of mentioned it. How big an opportunity is these two tests next month to get a look at some youngsters and some players that may normally, might not be in that core group of the squad?
Yeah, well, it's 2 years out from the World Cup, so it's a time where we're always looking to change the squad. I work in a 3-tiered project for a World Cup. You've got your 4 years, where the first 2 years you've got to establish a base, and then the next 2 years you're looking towards moving towards picking the squad for the World Cup, and that's where we're at the moment. The Lions, because of the Northern Hemisphere, the Lions almost cuts a line in the sand about where that is, because it opens up the opportunities to play some younger players at a higher level. We saw out of the last tour in 2017, Curry and Underhill come out of that tour. Curry's now 22, played 32 tests, captained his country for a small period of time. Underhill at his best is one of the best flankers in the world. So if we were able to get 2 or 3 players out of this campaign of that level, it's going to make a hell of a difference to the team, mate. And that's a great opportunity we've got.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, James. Alex Spink will come to you. Thanks. We're still on the live section, by the way, for everyone.
Okay, so I'll jump off.
No, you're more than welcome. I was just saying, if you want to stay for the writers, we'll come on to that.
I'll stay for the writers, sorry. I'll stay for the writers.
Liam, right, we'll finish with you then for the live section. Thanks.
Hi, Eddie. You mentioned there about coaching attack and how much you're looking forward to it, that you haven't done it in a while. I'm just wondering then, can you maybe elaborate on how useful your consultancy work, say like the trip to Japan, has been? You couldn't just put some more flesh on what you mentioned earlier and you touched on it?
Well, for 25 years, I've always practiced coaching. And I actually use my holidays to practice coaching because I love it, mate. And I get the opportunity to do a little bit of coaching at Suntory. I get the opportunity to work with some of the best players in the world. And Bob Dwyer, who was the coach who had the foremost influence on my coaching, always said the best players are the best coaches. So find the best players, pick their brains, learn from them. And that's the best way to improve your coaching. So, yeah, that's something I've done continually for 25 years. I go around clubs continually to try to pick people's brains. And obviously you share some information with them. You know, that's the obvious thing. It's an information sharing. But, yeah, no, very useful, mate.
There was some negative reaction from some people in England with regard to you say working with, say, the likes of Beauden Barrett, saying he's with the opposition in a couple of years' time. But it's obvious to you how useful those sort of expeditions are. And
I'm a coach. You know, I've got to practice coaching, mate. You know, if you're a golfer, you play golf. If you're a coach, you coach. And I only get 12 weeks a year to coach with England, so I've got to use my time in between to practice coaching and find better ways to coach. So I'm not aware of any criticism, but I'm sure there might have been. Okay, you can send me the articles if you like. I'm sure my mother's got them somewhere, so I might ask my mum if she's got them.
Fair enough. And just finally for me, you mentioned about the ruck speed increasing. You say it's more prevalent in the Southern Hemisphere. What exactly have you noticed that they're doing in the Southern Hemisphere that there has been?
Just the speed of balls quicker, mate. The referees are very diligent on the roll away and the tackle, very diligent on the jackler or the poacher, doing it correctly. There's maybe a little bit more leniency in the Northern Hemisphere for the poacher and the jackal. That might be an overgeneralisation, but the ball tends to be a little bit slower. But I think you've seen in the Premiership particularly over the last 3 weeks, when the sun's shining, you know, the tennis skirts are out, tennis shorts are out, the ball's got quicker. And because of that, there seems like there's more space on the field now. Now, the reason there's more space on the field is because the ball's quicker and the defence is struggling to get set. So that's something that's set in place by World Rugby, because the game was starting to tighten up too much and the ruck speed was too slow. And every time you've got slow ruck speed, you allow the defence to set, which results in double tackles, which then results in a slower ruck, which then results in kicking. So the game is moving, I think, in a really positive fashion, and we want to be at the foremost of how to play under those conditions, mate.